Right, hello. A dollar bill fold, another dollar bill fold. I think it's one that I've shown before. It might be in some of my earlier stuff where I actually am like videoing me showing the fold. you know, I don't know, but I'm sure I've done this one before. Um, anyway, it's an oldie but a goodie. But there's some significance to an upcoming date right now, which actually two upcoming dates. The first being um, the 9th of April, which is, of course, it's right the day after the eclipse, okay? The day after 4/8, okay? And there's another date that's in this fold. Now, if you watch We Seek, We Find channel, he's always going on about a date. He's going on about the 19th of May. So there's potential that this other date could be the 19th of May that's in this fold here. And what I find interesting about that is if you go check out my Pluto stuff, where I was looking at um, like a synodic orbit of Pluto, right? That what I ended up calculating out is that in relationship to the foundation of the United States of America, interesting that we have the founding father, the OG right there, of the United States of America on the $1 bill. So this is like the beginning, yeah? It's like the one, yeah? The first, the alpha, and then you're stuck inside the omega here. But if we go from that date, 4th of July, 1776, and we're given the synodic, we're given the sidereal or the sidereal orbit as 90,560 days, I think it is, something like that anyway. And that takes us to Donald Trump's birthday, right, this year. Well, when I adjusted it for a synodic orbit, okay, which kind of brings the orbit of Pluto back into sort of, I don't know how you even say it, but back into balance with the calendar, so to speak, which would obviously be back into balance with the sun, because that calendar is based around the sun, kind of close anyway. But what we end up getting to is we end up getting to the Queen, right? To cut a long story short, we get to the Queen's birthday 2023. And so what's interesting about that is if you look between the two possible return dates for this orbit, right? The Queen's birthday 2023 and DT's birthday this year, there's a point between those two things which we've just gone by, which was the 17th of November. That's a midpoint between those two dates. And that 17th of November is interesting with this relationship to Pluto, that being like a balance day or a potential type birthday thing, right? And the reason is, or what I like to call is like a Christmas type date, where it's balancing, because like Christmas is balancing both the sun and the moon. And what we're doing with Pluto is we are balancing, I guess, the stars and the sun. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how you want to look at it, but it's just that midpoint between those two dates, right? So it's like a Christmas type event. The 17th of November, the next day, is the 18th, which is, guess whose birthday that is? It's Mickey Bloody Mouse's birthday. So you got Pluto and Mickey Mouse stuck right together there, 17th and 18th of November. So it's, this cycle thing is pretty interesting, right? And what's more interesting about it is this date that's coming up, which is actually the 18th of May, is actually just the midpoint between the Queen and Donald Trump's birthdays. Okay, so the 21st of April through to the 14th of June, and that midpoint is the 18th, and obviously the 18th and the 19th. We're always, I'm sure this thing is going to happen in the midnight hour. I'm sure. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but it makes logical sense. We are close to the final hour, if you like. So, I want to show you this billfold. Let's get to the blimmin' point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there, and then I'll come on to showing you. I had a couple of charts that I wanted to show you, 2 new charts, which are really interesting, but it's going to be too much for one video. So I'm just going to break this video. Well, it'll kind of follow on. I'm going to leave you with some numbers that will go into the next video with. Anyway, we're basically just folding this side over to this other side. Now, it doesn't line up brilliantly, and I think that's done for a reason. And I think the reason is that because you kind of have to fudge it around, like it should be right about there somewhere, right? So the thing doesn't really, these ones don't line up correctly. They're just off a little bit. And so does the border's not just quite right. When you've got it where it looks right. But there are bits that do kind of line up, like this leaf kind of lines up. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this leaf kind of lines up here, and it does form a backwards D here, and the circle is kind of completed, and so, but the number ones don't quite line up, and I think it's deliberate. The reason why I think it's deliberate is so that you question, hang on a minute, why don't the number ones line up? Why, because they could have made those number ones line up perfectly. And I think the reason is because they're not supposed to be number ones. They are supposed to be the letter I think. This is what I'm thinking. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just why don't you just set that down a little bit and make it line up properly, And why wouldn't you make this one line up a little bit better? And I think that's the reason. I think these are supposed to be, I think the idea is, hey, they're not supposed to be the number one. So what else could they be? Well, the letter I. Okay. Let's do something else. This D is backwards. They could have made that D around the right way, I guess. But I guess it probably would have messed up the other folds. So what we want to do is we want to flip that D up the right way. And that might help us out a little bit. So let's do that really quickly. Let's just take that and not resize. What am I doing? Come on, computer skills, Dan. Where are they? Non-existent. Okay, that's flipped. Let me just sort of draw around so you can see what I'm talking about now. So we've got the D. Oh, blooming hell. I'll tell you what. I have a hard time trying to write with a mouse. Oh, there's the D, right? And now if we look at the 1, now you could almost, how an I sometimes goes a bit like this. Okay? That could almost be an I now, yeah? That's what I'm thinking anyway, right? So when you flip the thing, and what we've got up here, we've got an O, and I'm going to go with an I again here, So anyway, for this decode, that's what we're looking at, and that's what we're going to say it is, okay? Because if we go DI, right, let's whip that up a little bit. D is 4, and I is 9. So there's our 4-9, which is the day after. And again, we would be thinking about actually, I mean, there is potential that it could be 12 o'clock midnight on 4-9, but it is also potential that it could be 12 o'clock midnight on 4-8, moving into 4-9, or 4-9 moving into 4-10, which would be kind of interesting as well, with the idea of, the same numerology with 410 as April Fool's Day, which again, you know, there's a lot of references. Like, I think we just had there's much stuff in the news right now, and so many people croaking. But that Ewan Macintosh dude, you know, that reference to Macintosh, to the computer, to Apple, to Apple's foundation. I don't know if anybody else has talked about this or not, but the founding of that on April Fool's Day, and also the 14th of May as well. Another 14 number, 14 number, with Apple, who is Chris Martin's daughter, I think, and whoever he married. Was it Gwyneth Paltrow? I don't know who the hell he married. Anyway, whoever he married, they named the kid Apple, you know, and it was a 14 day, I'm sure. But that, you know, it just ties back to iPet Goat with the apple falling and rolling across the floor and splitting, and then from that regrowth. But that idea of the apple splitting, it's kind of ominous with the idea of the atom splitting as well. Atom, apple, and that apple splitting is the forbidden fruit, which is what we're in now, which is America. Or, well, it's not just America, it's the whole, you know, developed world. But that's the splitting of that thing, which is kind of interesting for X marks the spot day, with the Last Crusade and everything. And if I forget to do it, I will. I just want to reference something with the idea of. So we've got the 4/8, which is X marks the spot day. Yeah. And so what is interesting about that is that reference back to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And there's I need to really go back and do a whole video again on that. But I've mentioned it in bits and bobs passing through on other videos. But I did notice it's been a couple of times. I've watched it a couple of times recently, and you know, a time or two ago, I noticed that in the Grail Diary there is a dollar bill. Okay, so the clues to finding the Grail, the Lost Grail, again, like the Lost Ark, and again, the Ark of the Covenant is the dam. It's got the two cherubim angels, the same as we've got at the Hoover Dam. It's the Lincoln Memorial, looks very similar to the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark is gone. Now it's in the possession of the Raiders, yeah, who are in Las Vegas, LV, the levee, where the Hoover Dam is. I mean, you just go around in circles with this stuff, right? And they're in the Death Star Stadium, which is the corrupted moon, which has the trench run sequence that is based on the Dam Busters. I mean, if it doesn't happen, I just would be, I'm just going to be astounded if it never happens. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that there is a dollar bill in the Grail Diary, if I forget to mention it. So you can find that, and it's a silver eagle. It's a black eagle, Black Hawk Down. It's a Black Eagle silver certificate, silver dollar bill. Okay, so you can go and look that up. And again, that has, just while I'm on it, it has Lincoln on it, and it has Grant on it, at least on the one side, and then it has the eagle on the other side rather than Washington. So, but that is interesting. It has Grant on it because Grant is Ulysses and Ulysses is Odysseus, and you just go around in circles, I'm telling you, with all this stuff. And of course with Lincoln and the Ark of the Covenant, the thing that's been lost, is our covenant with God. The 10 Commandments have gone bye-bye now, But anyway, after that little ramble, I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. So there's 4/9, right? It's right here. And obviously it makes sense with the 4/9. Again, what makes sense is that this is a D. D for dam. Okay. Ah, bloomin' hell. So we've got the D for the dam, and what we've also got at the top here is the O and the I. Now the O and the I, again, the O and the I, if you look at another kind of symbol, something like this, some format of phi. But what is interesting is the O and the I, like this, is the Space Needle. And so O and I, O is 15, and again, I is 9. I don't know why I wrote that O there. Let's get that out of the way. So O is 15, and I is 9. Okay, I'm going to put it that way around. And so if you read that backwards, that's getting us to the day after. That's the 19th of May. That's getting us the day after 518, which is that day that balances the Queen, okay, and maybe the king, the new king, has been king once, Donald Trump, okay. So that is pretty interesting, I thought, right? I will also say this is kind of reminiscent of the lamppost in the silver certificate with Washington on it as well. This sort of symbolism up here as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But again, why am I picking out? Why am I saying, well, why wouldn't the dam be on that date? Well, it could possibly be something else on 4/9, or and we've already got the eclipse on 4/8, so but it could possibly be something. This could be the dam date, or this could be another 915 date. So where do you go with it all on picking out dates? But it is interesting that this is that number between those two things, which those two things relate to Pluto. And again, the Space Needle, I kind of like with this, with the idea of what with the idea of this dart sticking through the Vesica Pisces, basically. I could just see the donut dropping down, just like on New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve, when they have the drop in Times Square, with that thing going over the. Anyway, and it's the same here. He's the alpha, here's the A, and then here's the thing at the top, the omega. Except he's within the omega right now. Instead of having a crown, he's inside the thing, and so it just makes more sense to me. You've also got the idea of coming out of the dam. Again, the dam is the mother, so this is nice that it's around 4/8 with the moon. Okay, the moon, the mother, the dam. We've got this idea of coming out of there and ascending towards, and shooting the arrow through out of the Vesica Pisces the one final time. But again, this whole thing, this tower, is based around the idea of the sort of broadcast tower as well. I think that's what it might have been based on originally. You'd have to go watch JL. He's got all the information really about the Space Needle. But that thing was basically a broadcast tower. So you got this idea of coming out of the dam, and this ascension is the trip out, exodus out of the desert, and then over the Golden Gate Bridge, over the Golden Gate Bridge, and then up the coastline, which that road that goes up the coastline is following the golden sands, if you like, the yellow brick road up the coastline to Washington State, where the Space Needle is. Okay, and the man behind the curtain in the broadcast tower. So this final sort of, I don't know, revealing of, or final sort of aha moment for everybody. But again, Washington State is it's the Emerald City, the Emerald State, isn't it, or the Evergreen State, or something stupid like that. So that's what we got going on, right? Again, I kind of like the idea that we kind of have the 5-1 in here, which is like May Day as well, which relates to the maypole, which is what the Space Needle is, and so you have this idea of binding the Space Needle again, starting the cycle off again. Okay, so that's why I want to leave it for this. Let's get rid of this bump. So before I completely leave it though, I want to just show you one number out of here, and I will reference back to this in the next video. Okay, so I can't reverse any further. Well, it doesn't matter, we don't need to. What I want to show you is the leaves and berry count now where we've got this. Okay, so at the bottom here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves. Okay, that's handy, we've got 4 right here, so we've got 4 leaves. And then we've got in the next middle part, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaves. Okay, so again, you could fudge that as a 4, 8 right there, just looking at leaves. And then if we look at berries, we've got 1, and then we've got a double here, 2, 3, and then another double, 4, 5. So that number there is the leaves and berry count for that fold, 485, right? So I want people to kind of try and remember that for the next video, because when I do talk in the next video, I will talk about some of the other things within here. Two little notes. I'm not going to show you the folds now, but if you've kept up with all the dollar bill folds, right, you will know that on this side of the dollar bill is 9/11, and we can do a 155-day jump, which is in the leaves and berries, which takes us over to this side, which is normally, without all this mess here, is normally 213. Okay. Now, what I will say is you can do the reverse number jump. So instead of going 155 days on, you can go in a reverse 155 days, and it will take you to, you've guessed it, 4-9. At least 4-9 this year. Does that change? It shouldn't change, should it? I don't think it should, because we're already past the. It might. No, it wouldn't change, would it? I don't know. Anyway, it for this year it takes you to 4-9, right? Blah, 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 blah. What do I want to say? So that's interesting, right? Not only is that's interesting, but 213 obviously is the start of the cycle, which is interesting in its own right as well. And this idea of restarting maybe something here. And then I just want to reference the idea that if you can remember the Washington where he's reborn out of the dam, which is the Labor Day fold, and that Labor Day fold also deals with the number 55 is encoded in it. That gives us our date. And then we have a 122 underneath here, which gives us our number jump. And from 55, you go 122 days, and it takes us to what was Labor Day this last year, which was 4-9. So that was kind of interesting that we were doing the mirror of 155, which was 122, and it's all encoded in there with the leaves and berries as well. That's not too much guesswork there. But again, that 4-9 day. Okay, so that was really interesting as well. I just wanted to note that in the video. So again, this is it's looking kind of ominous anyway for, you know, the midnight hour after the eclipse for sure. We shall find. We shall wait and find out. But I want to show you these. The next video, I'm going to show you these two new tables, and we'll see. You know, you'll be able to see this 155. If I forget to tell you, you'll be able to see it in there. Again, it's in the chart of Lorraine as well, but this 155 is also in this new thing, and there's a whole bunch of linkage with these new tables. So anyway, I'm leaving it there. Keep it short, keep it sweet. Hopefully it's fairly sweet, and I'll catch you on another one here pretty soon. All right, cheers, bye.